unanimously switch over to Secret as opposed to Weapon Rogue. What that does mean, of course, is that you have the very powerful sap effects primarily. If you are looking to stick a Devout Pupil, a minion with Librams on it, like a single Libram left in play, Librim of Wisdom stuck on a minion, can just be Blackjack stunned back to hand, which deletes the card from existence. So you have to be very careful as the Paladin at how you're metering out your threats in the matchup. It's not just a play your stuff and hope you win matchup.
Indeed. Already an interesting hand for Possessi, though, because Hayabusa Allura, in the other version of Paladin, I really like keeping that card just to make sure that you have it as early as possible and you can cheat out a Blessing of Authority. But also, Salet's Pride is one of your best cycle engines in the early game. And the two minions in the middle, sorry, the two cards in the middle are early game that if he wants it, he could have consecutively.
Interesting. Just Salet's Pride being kept. I agree that in the other version, like, Allura was the payoff 90% of the time. That's what the entire deck felt like it revolved around because of how powerful Blessing of Authority, Blessing of Kings was to get on it. But those buff cards aren't in the deck anymore.
It's true. I think I like Possessi tossing them away because it feels like with this version, what you're really looking for is these attendants and the Aldor Truth Seekers, just making sure you can get to these zero-cost Librams of Wisdom as soon as possible. Salet's Pride cycles through the deck, so in a way, it's also getting you closer to the Libram cheapeners.
We might also get to see now with Salet's Pride the super scuffed call to arms that we sometimes see in this deck, where you go Salet's Pride that draws your draw cards, which then draw more cards. Obviously, you have to play them from your hand instead of just getting them in play naturally, but still, I can appreciate holding on to it here just to keep the draw going.
Yeah, I drew a comparison to Christology instead of call to arms with this. Because it honestly feels a lot like the cycle from the old Holy Wrath Paladin, which was one of my favorite decks back in the day. But oh my gosh, this draw for blitzchung. That could just be GG.
Yeah, that is a very important draw right away. Possessi now put on the back foot. There's no spell to prep out, which is the only thing that I think is giving Possessi a chance here, because this can only end up as a 10-10 Edwin, an 8-8 Edwin, which is not necessarily game-ending quite yet.
Not necessarily, and of course, Possessi does run the two Librams of Justice in this version of Paladin. So there is a way to come back on the board, but it's currently not in hand, and the cycle feels extremely slow.
So
maybe trying to find a way to leverage the broom.
Yeah, that's where my head is at. Double Loot Hoarder Coin Broom is available if you want to be going for immediate damage, but I guess the fact that it doesn't quite do enough, really, is holding him back here. And he's just going with another draw turn, trying to find that answer, as you were talking about, in the form of the Librim of Justice. He's going to need it right now, though, because this is an incredible amount of development from blitzchung.
And it's only that card which is making blitzchung hesitate from playing Jandis this turn, because a lot of the time you would just drop that and create an insurmountable board state. But if Possessi did have the Libram, then it's actually not even a full clear, because he would need an additional card to get rid of all of the one-cost minions, so I think it's actually fine to play Jandis here.
I agree. I think you definitely still throw it down. Oh my god! What? Okay, if it's gonna be that, you throw it down. What on earth was that? Illegal!
Even if these were 2-4 attack minions, I don't think Possessi was gonna win here, so blitzchung just doing him a favor of ending the game sooner. Libram is not even in hand. Get out of my game, says blitzchung. We're going to game 2.
There's the Abyss Allura play, right? You can hit Librim of Justice here, which maybe plus Pen Flinger is enough to pull you back.
Pen and Broom, that was a fair point, because you would end up being able to clear 4 minions, and then there would just be the Strangled Horn Tiger. But he does not get the Librim of Justice. We're going to game 2.
And this is obviously a somewhat unexpected way for this to pan out, but it's the expected result. The Libram Paladin is not meant to go up against Rogue. It's simply too flexible. The Paladin is too rigid a lot of the time, even with the card draw, to make sure they find their power cards. If they come up against this disgusting of a starting hand, there's nothing the Paladin can do.
I must move quickly.
air raid.
You heard that, Possessi? There's nothing that Paladin can do. There is no.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the craziest one drops?
Not those. Oh, okay. It does actually allow the clear on the Earth Ellie, so he's not dead.
Correct.
Wait, is that lethal now? Because he can bounce back the Kobold. He can go 9, 14, 16, 18 plus dagger. I think that's lethal if he has mana.
Yes, I think it is. But you have to prep the dirty trick.
I think that's actually exact lethal.
Oh, not anymore.
1, 1, 2, 2, 14, 16, 18. Yeah, I think that was just exact lethal. Obviously not easy to spot, and he's probably just won the game anyway, but...
Yeah.
You know. Small thing.
I mean, you would still love to see it.
Yes, of course, of course. I think this is still approaching 100% of victory.
Yeah. But if we're gonna get very nitpicky about it, this is the second missed lethal of the day we've seen, which is not boding well for APAC. This one had no bearing on the outcome of the game, very likely, but still.
Still, indeed. You would have loved to have seen it.
Is there a clear on Edwin here?
Well, I think you can put the taunt in the way, right? Is probably the best chance you have.
Sure.
Oh, and then Abyss is just going to close things out anyway with Kobold.
Or just the Kobold step on this turn if let's just use it this time.
Yeah, okay.
Valiant effort from Possessi.
Yep, many ways to go about this, and it does mean that blitzchung gets the win in the first game of the series. I think that this is a perfectly fine win for Possessi. Like, you don't want to be seeing this, but if you're expecting your opponent to get a win with any of the decks, the Rogue felt like it was probably the most likely to get a win over the course of the series. Blitzchung is still, I think, in a good spot, of course, but Possessi can just happily let the Rogue get the win and then try and carry on with his Paladin to take down something else.
Yeah, and like we were saying at the beginning, the Warrior definitely feels like the only class where the Paladin can possibly get a win through. So if I'm in Blitzchung's head, I would just save that for last, because it seems like Possessi's indicated that he just wants to try and get his worst deck through with a win. But maybe I would have gotten Mind Games there, because Possessi has just queued up Priest for the next one.
Ooh, that'll be a good one. Priest up against the question mark as Blitzchung gets his decision of what he's going to queue up next ready to go. And while we give him a chance to do that, we are going to go to a break. We're finding out here who is going to be sadly eliminated from any chance of going through to the World Championships, and who gets to carry on and get that one step closer towards going through to the semi-finals. When we come back, we'll find out if Blitzchung can go all the way, or if Possessi, against all the odds, can turn things around. We'll be right back. You're watching Hearthstone Grandmasters. This is the Elimination Match. Possessi was placed here, unfortunately, after getting an automatic loss, which is what happens when you qualify through from Division B. But he still has a chance, if he can win this series and the next one, to go through to the semi-finals. And then if he wins the semi-finals and the finals without losing a single series of Hearthstone, he could be our representative going through to the World Championships. But it's not got off to a great start. This Paladin Gia is looking shaky, to say the least, up against blitzchung.
Definitely seems that way. He has already set the stage for just seeing how it plays out against blitzchung's lineup by queuing it up against the rogue, and he's switching off of it now and going for the priest. But I don't know if the mind game was supposed to work or not, because blitzchung is going with the warrior now, and I thought this is the deck that Possessi wanted to get the paladin through on. So if blitzchung takes the win with warrior over priest, then Possessi's paladin potentially gets completely locked out.
It would be a bit of a rough spot. It definitely does need to be a win for the priest here over the warrior. I think if Possessi wants to have much of a chance. And to be fair, he's got a reasonable list to do so. He's got the one Kobold Sticky Finger there in the deck. blitzchung does have double Horde Pillager in order to try and play around some of the weapon stealing effects, but he also only has one upgrade in the deck. He doesn't have the Captain Green skin, which, to be fair, isn't very popular anymore. But even though he has the double Horde Pillager, there's a little bit less of the weapon buffing effect. So maybe here from Possessi, if he can get off to a strong start with the Priest, steal one of the weapons with the Sticky Finger, this is definitely winnable for him.
Yeah, definitely not impossible. I think that if you are going to leave up Bomb Warrior, it should mean that at least one of the rest of your decks, other than the Paladin, has a chance of getting a win against it. Because throughout the day, we've seen warrior bans across the board. The players kind of circling back to the theory of conquest from maybe the middle of the GM season. Start off, Possessi has double Sethek in the opener. I'm definitely interested in keeping one of them, but he is throwing it away.
Yeah, I think this is partly the idea that you want to be finding, obviously, the key tech card in Kobold Sticky Finger, but also just that Sethek Veilweaver at this point in the matchup is decent, but not quite worth a keep, I think. You have enough redundancy with early game plays that you can afford to throw it away to find the tech cards.
That's fair. The one makers are in there as well as early game plays. I was thinking getting it down on turn 2 might be a spot where warrior is unlikely to answer it that earlier on, because you're expecting them to go Corsair Cash and then go for the Wrench Caliber. And now that it's offered to him here, it could just be a play and then follow up with the One Maker or Apotheosis, depends. The Apo, of course, is very scary to Bladestorm.
Yeah, I think I like the look of this. Like you said, Bladestorm is the fear if you go for the Apotheosis line, but just going for a new as well would honestly not be too bad at all. He's taken the odds, though, that there is no play of the Bladestorm yet, and it looks like he's going to be rewarded with a sticking Sethek Veilweaver here, which is absolutely huge.
It's true. Bladestorm is not a keep as warrior against priest. So for this early on, blitzchung feels like he would probably have to just cycle again. I don't know whether it's with the Corsair Cash or the shield block to get closer to a Bladestorm. The Wrench Caliber damage is immediately healed back up by the Seth.
Right. So the benefit of going for Wrench Caliber, though, is that you coin out the turn before your opponent can go for Sticky Finger, if you're afraid of that. And you can then try and set up for the clear next turn with top deck Shield Slam, I don't know, off of the shield block that you play next turn. It's tough.
Definitely feels like top decks are involved no matter which way you go about it.
This feast is insane, though.
It really is. The Sethek is soloing the game.
It's just getting him.
blitzchung also runs 2 Coerces, which he could get to deal with this. Also, Bladestorm has been not completely shut off because he has Sword and Board, but made a little bit more difficult to activate.
Oh, is it just coin brawl? Is that where we're at?
I knew you were gonna say that.
Oh.
I hate it, but it might have to be because there's at the moment it's only Coerce and Bladestorm that can deal with the Sethek, and if he shield blocks to get it, it's still not playable this turn.
Right. Like, I know that I'm letting caster vision get to myself there, because it's just the fact that I can see the psych split in hand, which is just going to be absolutely brutal. But,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know. It could just be game winning on the spot. If you hit the 1-1 and the Sethic dies, you could just have won the game on the spot on a 50-50.
It's not a straight up win, but it is definitely going to give blitzchung much needed breathing room and possibly time to just win the game. He believes that going for draw and trying to clear it over the next couple turns gives him better odds than a 50-50, which is reasonable. Restless Mummy?
Yeah, it's Mummy or Broomstick. Kind of close. Okay, do the thing. Watch blitzchung cry.
Oh my goodness. Okay, the broom is free with the brawl. So
Okay.
it's a 50-50 again.
Blade Storm. We want the Blade Storm here. That's the insane draw.
Yep.
Yeah. No.
Broom
Okay.
brawl.
Oh my god. Okay,
How
you're
did it come to
praying
this?
for this.
Okay.
You'll take that.
Big,
You'll absolutely
big
take
relief
that.
for blitzchung.
The game can continue. We're back to normalcy now. Possessi was close to just winning the game on the spot with all of that Sethic nonsense that was occurring. Now he's got to go back to the slightly more reactive game plan. I think we can agree.
To be fair, he's bought himself a lot of time and made blitzchung have awkward turn after awkward turn, double shield block exhausted just for stall there. So I think Possessi can still try and win this with pressure. Yup. That was guaranteed. Double Sethic.
Pretty good.
First wrench gets played into the I guess space. There was an argument for hitting the Vulpera, but honestly, Deathwing will clean it up the next turn anyway.
Exactly. You've seen one of the Appos, right? It's unlikely they have the other one, so this damage probably sticks. Deathwing probably clears everything up, and you move on your day with that.
Value train. Gonna keep on going for Possessi.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, the feast! He has 9 cards in hand, so he would overdraw then if he plays that.
I think that's okay.
You think that's okay? Okay, fair enough.
I mean, we did see a very cool game from Tiz, where he went up to 10 to avoid bombs, but that was much
True.
later and in a different situation. Okay, gonna hold on to the buff card for now. Of course, it's still very valuable for Possessi to find the sticky finger, so I understand why he doesn't want to overdraw.
So the Deathwing obviously does not clear all the minions off the board here. Does that ever incentivize blitzchung to go for like a setup turn, an interim turn, where you just play out Galakrond here? Doesn't feel very strong.
It doesn't. I mean, the fact that the minions that get left up are Sethics makes the
Yeah.
Deathwing feel very, very fragile. A single Shadow Word Death ends up giving Possessi even more value. So if it is the interim turn, he swings into the Divine Shield, is it?
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Or you could go Cutting Class to try and find like second Brawl or maybe Blade Storm just to sweep up the Divine Shields.
Just gonna leave the smaller Sethic. Blitzchung is strangely closer to dying than Possessi is, but again, Priest needs to have the minions face up on board to put together a lethal, but that is an insane top deck.
It's just absolutely ludicrous. You copy the Deathwing, you can then play another Sethic if you want to, plus the death. You can go Powered Feast plus the death. You could just go for Holy Smite just to cycle it. Like, the opportunities are endless.
I just wonder if he pops the cards right now after he deaths the other Deathwing, because he can set up lethal.
Oh, interesting.
I mean, worth thinking about. It's still fragile, but I think he had a pretty solid read from a couple turns ago on no Blade Storm, no Cores.
He could have gone Pop It and then go Deathwing plus the Reborn effect on it there as well.
Yeah, that looked good. That looked very
That did
strong.
look good. I wasn't necessarily on board with it before, but then I was as soon as he got the extra effect.
Okay. Well, Blitzchung has a bit more time, but the board is still problematic. Sethic is extremely annoying.
So if you go... You can't really go Bladestorm first, can you? No.
Yeah, you do not want to pop this card.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it just goes from bad to worse.
He is just tanking it. It looks.
You know there's a Sethic in hand, though. Like, it's not like this train of value stops anytime soon.
Doesn't. It definitely feels like Blitzchung's just trying to set up a boom for the next turn.
Right.
Very unlikely
yeah.
to die from 9, to be fair. Incredible
Unlikely,
how much
but possible.
damage that Possessi had.
Sethic again. Let's keep going, generating more stuff here.
Close out the game.
A true created by gamer. I salute you, sir.
I must consider.
I mean, this is all the legacy of Possessi's early plays, right? A lot of people would have held on to the Apotheosis, tried to get more healing from it, and taken a defensive posture against Bomb Warrior, because that's how it usually goes. Grave Rune! As if Blitzchung didn't have enough problems. Psyche Split! That copies the card with a Deathwing in it! Excuse me, sir? That's not legal.
Disgusting. This is just a full-on cloning facility he's got now. He's got Karges with Deathwings inside them.
Blitzchung's just dead.
He can go Boom Whirlwind and then die. He can go Krastenov and then die. Or he can just die. The choice is his.
He can go above the damage presented on board if you armor up with Galakrond and then Shield Slam the Sethic. That's a play to survive, which I think you kind of have to go for. Get in another swing, and then another swing next turn if you're not dead, with Boom Whirlwind, and hope all the bombs go face. That's the line.
I wonder.
I'm on board. I don't see anything else. Like, I'm looking for any kind of Bladestorm clear. Like, obviously you can swing into the Sethic and then Bladestorm, but you're then faced with 2 Deathwings. I don't see any other way to clear off the Karges first.
For me, the question is, do you armor up to go up to 12? Or do you just accept that you're going to stay at 10, Possessi doesn't have 2 damage, and then push the extra damage with the hero power?
It's just leaving the Sethic entirely. Wow.
I thought it was going to be shield.
So he only
was
needs
not swinging into it.
2 damage now? A 2 damage buff is not that hard to find.
It's true. I felt like the Sethic needed to get Shield Slam there, although it would also just be dead to 2 damage in hand, was Blitzchung. Oh,
Galakrond hero power! That's lethal! Oh, that's so sick.
It is super sick.
Alright, nicely done for Possessi. We've seen Pharaoh Cat not taken as the lethal with Tundra Rhino today, but finally he redeems himself with Murison Galakrond hero power lethal. Equalized at 1 game apiece, and as we were saying, an absolutely crucial victory for Possessi.
Yep, the Warrior's still left up, so maybe Possessi can get the Paladin through. I mean, were you saying that Blitzchung did the... Tom
did I say
the Pharaoh
Blitzchung?
Cat thing,
I
right?
meant Tom, sorry, yeah.
Right. It was so funny because we've seen Pharaoh Cat miss lethal for style points, and we've just seen straight up missed lethal for the actual win from Tom. And Blitzchung missed lethal to end the game 1 turn sooner, but I guess to be fair, he had the game all locked up anyway. It's already been such a roller coaster of a day in APAC, but I absolutely love how Possessi played out that game. Like I was saying a while ago, there's a lot of players that would have thought to save Apotheosis for when they've taken damage and try to get out of bomb range, but Possessi says, if this doesn't get answered, I can just put the pressure on Blitzchung instead, and it was beautifully executed.
Yeah, I think so too. It's not even like he got like incredibly lucky. The spells he got, to be fair, were above average, undeniably, but he lost the brawl. If he hadn't lost the brawl, the game would have ended about 3 turns earlier anyway, because Tom would have, Blitzchung would have just been dead at that point anyway. So I think that it was, not like Possessi just got handed the win for free. He had to seize it himself, as he did so beautifully there. Priest out of the way. Obviously, the Warrior still now needing to get a win for Blitzchung. Wonder if that means Possessi's going to be going with the Paladin again here to try and sneak it across the line, or if it's going to be the Mage instead.
Oh, it's really tough, right? Because when you leave up the Warrior and I would still argue, only have the Paladin as a good matchup when you look at it on paper. The Q order does matter in here, and I kind of thought that Possessi got the worst of it a while ago by switching off the Paladin and not queuing it into the Warrior, but thankfully for him, still ended up with a win, and it looks like the mind games have come to play again because Possessi did switch on to Paladin, and Blitzchung is now queuing up Priest.
Right. And I think, we were talking about that matchup a little bit at the start, because very differently from the Paladin that Rivius brought, I think I unjustifiably or unfairly attributed the word clunky to this Paladin deck. This is not quite so slow and lumbering as the pure Paladin is, where it just sticks one big minion, puts a buff on it, and hope that that's enough. It's a lot more flexible. There's a lot more moving parts in the deck with all the draw, the pen flinger, the infinite value that you can get off Librim of Wisdoms that you draw very often. But I do still wonder if it's going to be enough to get there against Priest, because a couple of these big Priest tricks that can come down could shut all of that down from the Paladin.
Right, the steal effects are the big ones to be aware of, because the strength of the Paladin against Warrior comes from the fact that the Warrior cannot shut down the infinite Librims of Wisdom. Plus, the Paladin has a bunch of healing from the 2 Librims of Hope at the top end. For Possessi, though, double Aldor Attendant in the opener seems like a really strong prospect. It means that all of the Librims of Wisdom in the future will just be free.
It's a very, very big deal. It's the dream start for him here, and it becomes even more powerful, as I was saying, in this build of the deck. Incredibly heavy on the draw. Loot Hoarders, Novice Engineers. When was the last time we saw these in Hearthstone? Even in a dedicated combo decks, they're generally just seen as way too low tempo for the card draw that they afford you. But clearly seen as worth it in this Paladin deck.
I must move quickly.
It also, honestly, completely went over my head that this was Blitzchung's Priest we were talking about, which is Highlander and has less consistent ways of stealing buffed up minions. So maybe that helps Possessi in one regard, but on the other hand, they can Zephyrus for silence, so it gets scary no matter which way you look at it. So Possessi is kind of just deciding to go all in on the board presence here, and his curve kind of justifies it. He has a 2 drop to follow up.
Kind of weird here for Blitzchung, because with the Pyro, on one hand, you could say if they had the Blessing of Wisdom for 0 mana, wouldn't they have played it? But at the same time, wouldn't they just hold it back because it doesn't do anything immediately and it's free on the next turn? If they don't have it, this Pyro is pretty insane. If they do, it's devastating. You just get VT'd and you're in no better position on the board.
And it's also Hand of a Doll as a potential punish on the Pyro, but the alternative for Blitzchung is straight up pass, and the Pyro is not doing anything anytime soon with this hand. It is extremely expensive for Blitzchung. So I think he was just forced into playing it. The other big upside for Possessi, having used the coin last turn, is that Illusion next turn is not very great for Blitzchung, other than potentially giving Possessi a dead turn.
Exactly, that's the benefit. He obviously won't be able to play any of Possessi's cards, but he'll get information, which is worth some amount. And like you said, a pretty much straight up dead turn for Possessi.
It also just kind of lines up okay on the board. I never thought I would say that about a 3-mana 1/3, but after the Pyro VTs, Illusion challenges the Loot Hoarder somewhat. But now it feels less exciting to do so because he would give Possessi this Broom, which is one of Blitzchung's main resources to swing a board.
Yeah, I think you probably still just go for it, right? Is it going to get much better?
Well, they have Hero Power Broom, which means your Pyro gets swept up, and so does your Broom, and if he wants to, so does the Illusia. So, I don't know. I don't think it does anything. It's still really a decent turn for Possessi.
So then is it what? Value trade, heal and
Pyro?
Broom? Or just value trade, heal, pass?
Mm,
Choose quickly.
maybe it is value trade and broom the loot hoarder and heal the pyro
Yeah.
at the end.
It's really tough. It's very, very
Yeah.
close. Yeah. I can respect this line. Lucia, you know, as we were saying at the start, it can be used to steal Pen Flinger to maybe try and steal a Librim of Wisdom if that's left about in hand for too long. It does have some insane targets later on in the game, even if it was okay here.
I'm just incredibly amused at the power level of Hearthstone that we've been watching. This has been 2 mana 2/1, 1 mana 1/1, possibly a 3 mana 1/3, and the pyro on the board. In the decks I play, I would be cheating about 8 mana this turn.
If I hadn't killed my opponent, my monitor would be out the window at this point playing Mage. Like, what is this?
Anyway, the raised dead will get blitzchung his broom back and also clear the loot hoarder. Might just
Yeah,
be
you tell
worth-
me. What's the real Sorcerer's Apprentice? Sorcerer's Apprentice or raising brooms back to life?
This all sounds like a Disney's Fantasia reference to me. I'm hearing about some sorcerers and some broomsticks.
Well, yeah, but the story is called The Sorcerer's Apprentice. That's the...
Is it? I did not know that.
Yeah. I think so, anyway. Alright. Are we now looking at a Lucia? You have a little bit of mana to work with. Maybe you can snipe off some of the cheap minions. You could trade first, and then they guaranteed have at least something you can play.
And then you give them Sethic Broom. I guess that's not too much of a disaster, but... If
Like, they might
take...
just draw Pen Flinger.
That's fair. Fair.
Now.
He's going for it. I think this was the play to try and hit Pen Flinger from his opponent's deck.
And it was probably the best timing to try and do so, but
Yep.
he does not get it. I think blitzchung's meant to just dump Possessi's broom here because the air raid is twin spell, and Possessi gets the other half back.
I wonder.
Yeah, like, Air Raid does technically start chewing through some value and it's better mana utilization, but I think Broomstick is just a much more crucial card in the deck. Like, if you can get rid of Broomstick, their ability to fight back on board is very limited.
Right. But Possessi's broom is just better.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So, Broom Breath?
I really
Broom
want to
Holy Nova?
not give Blitzchung a Sethic.
That's true.
Let me think.
Like, he can fit in the hero power with the broom Sethic line, and that would be a
That's
full
true.
clear.
Okay, I don't mind that.
And
I don't-
yes, Blitzchung will immediately answer the board with the Breath and Holy Nova, but they don't have a Sethic.
Yeah, I
This
mean,
is
you're just
really tough.
killing...
I wonder.
You're killing all their value, right? As long as Sethic dies, this hand basically can't do much of anything.
You can also make the argument that Sethic in this hand is also not even generating value, but that's just for now.
Yeah,
I must move
I'm with you. I really like getting rid of the Sethic here.
It all feels like it's... I mean, both of the lines feel scary because of the Murazon on the other side. So if
Right.
Possessi were to go for the clear line, dump the broom, Blitzchung uses Holy Nova / Breath of the Infinite over the next couple turns to stall, and then he lands a Murazon, and then Possessi is probably behind by that point.
Well, it's a
But-
fairly clean turn on the other side for Blitzchung there, right? Just to clear things up. It's a good point you bring up about the Murazon, but I think for the moment, Possessi just needs to make the individual strongest play he could, which was arguably what he went for.
Nova and Vile Fiend. Possessi using the Breath of the Infinite does make it so that Blitzchung's turn 7 is potentially quite dead. Because he wouldn't have the other AoE spell to spend on Possessi's next board development. So I think Possessi has given himself a window to to try and push before Murazan comes back the other way.
Ooh, there's the Flinger. That's an interesting point, because now the entire strategy, the game plan shifts drastically. If he needs value, he's got all the value he could possibly ever want now with just playing this Pen Flinger every single turn, as every other card he plays pretty much.
Well, it doesn't quite have the zero-cost Librams to make it truly infinite value, but it's definitely good for him to have in his back pocket. Up. Just the pass from blitzchung. He is under no pressure whatsoever, so even if the next turn is pass again into Plague of Death, I think he's in a great spot.
I mean, Possessi, it's probably not at the point where you have to shoot your own Salit's Pride with the Pen Flinger, but like, you can start to think about stuff like that if you really specifically need to find the card draw effects, because as soon as he finds Librim of Wisdom, things just go into overdrive.
It's just so weird, because Possessi knows there's Murazan and Plague of Death coming up soon, so Devout Pupil doesn't feel good. They just play their Murazan and they get your Devout Pupil.
That's okay though, right?
Yeah,
you have Librim
of
Justice.
Yeah, that's true. I guess Possessi did have to force out one of those response cards at some point for him to have a win condition. So, biting the bullet this turn.
And it's like, it's so weird playing this when both players have perfect information. Like, Possessi knows there's the Murazon, but blitzchung knows it's just dead because there's a Librim in hand on the very next turn.
Well, this is going to be a very fun Pen Flinger turn. Oh, I thought he was gonna ship the Salhead face, but I guess he's expecting Plague of Death the next turn.
Exactly.
So he wanted to get the card draw.
Like my invention.
Smart. And there's only actually one novice left in the deck that can even be drawn from it, so do it while you can.
Okay, so you can play out the other novice. 1-1 into 8-1, face into 3-1, ship 4 face.
Clean to me.
And this is the size of board where blitzchung doesn't want to Plague of Death it because it's not all that threatening, but if he doesn't Plague of Death it, what's he doing?
Kaj Acolyte Wave is pretty powerful on this turn. Obviously, a third of the time it's insane. The rest of the time it's just okay.
Kaj pass makes an interesting broom turn possibly next turn because he can pop the Karj and rush his Devout Pupil.
True.
I don't know if that factors in.
I think Possessi can just kind of ignore that for the moment. He really doesn't need to be too worried about it. Yeah.
I just am interested in milking the Pen Flinger damage. Yeah, this is really nice, right? It's by no means an OTK, but it's persistent damage that Possessi can maneuver however he wants. There's the Librim of Wisdom now too.
Big deal. He can cast that on the Devout Pupil, right? And then as long as he takes out the Divine Shield by trading in the 3/3 Pen Flinger off the Divine Shield, and then play Librim to bounce the Pen Flinger back and buff up to a 5/6, he can then take a very strong value trade.
Wait, you lost me there.
Sorry, so 3/3 into Kaj.
Okay.
There's a Devout Pupil inside. You Pen Flinger off the Divine Shield, buff up your 4/5 so it can value trade the Divine Shield into the 4/5.
That is true. I wonder if it's worth just sending everything face instead. But of course, with this line of trading, you get to generate an extra Librim in the pool for the Liadrin that's in hand. That was definitely botched by Possessi at the end there. I don't think he meant to float 4. But it was a super complicated turn.
Yeah. I mean, that was the kind of turn where I'm sure there probably was something better than what I was suggesting because there were so many moving parts there. But what I was suggesting was better than this. It was better than just passing at the end.
On retrospect, I think the turn was trade in the 3/3, buff your smaller Novice Engineer to ping off the shield, but you get the Librim in the pool, and then you buff the Devout Pupil.
Okay.
And then the Pen Flingers can go face or something.
That sounds smart. I'd be on board with that.
But it took us very long to come to that conclusion, so we can't be too tough on Possessi.
Sure. Gonna be a little bit tough on him though. Let's speed these games up. You know, you got to find something. I don't like it when these players rope out instead of doing something.
I mean, fact remains that blitzchung is in trouble. He is not finding value.
Yeah, that's what happens when you let your opponent play his ethics, right? Like, not to say that it was wrong because he could have just destroyed some of the key cards from his opponent's hand, but it wasn't good enough.
It was giving up his Sethic for a chance to delete Possessi's own value with the Penflinger, but it's not to say that Penflinger is the only source of value in Possessi's deck, whereas for blitzchung, it seemed like his only source of value in the near future with the hand he had.
And so he's now ahead on board, technically, but has Possessi got lethal here? Surely that's never a thing. I think he's just starting by pointing
no
at face.
Yeah, he's building it up. Maybe across 2 turns. Or 3 turns. There's probably not enough spells, but Angry Chicken always gets there. What am I talking about?
Yeah, exactly. These are Penflinger lethals. They're like sourdough starters. You've got to really let it ferment and, you know, get to an appropriate level before it does what it's supposed to do. It's like the Boyle family sourdough.
Chicken, hand of a doll, broom. Let's go! Oh, he's... Okay, so the last Penflinger is potentially vulnerable. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Comes back. Clean. Possessi has played more of this than I have, for sure.
Yeah, it looks super clean. You can always just get it back to hand with 0 mana Librim. Really nicely done. Trades away the chicken. Oh, did he get everything in? Okay, missed out on the Adal. On the last Librim though, but I think that's fine.
I don't think he was going to play it. I think it's in hand for the Penflinger next turn in case it was, in case blitzchung didn't trade off or silence the minion.
Sure.
But there's just tons of Librims in the Liadrin now, so, I mean, Possessi can put together the lethal across a couple turns.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way you can get it quite here. Even though technically there's 10 Penflingers activations plus the swing of the weapon, I don't think you can make it happen here.
Not all at once. The mana is not there.
Reporting for duty.
Oh, gets the twin spell too. Sick.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair to blitzchung, this is exactly what he was trying to avoid, right? He was just trying to make it so that this wouldn't happen by sniping off the Penflinger, because now he just knows Possessi just gets to do whatever Possessi wants on these turns, and he's just dealing like 6 damage to face every turn. Eventually, it will get there.
This is a combo that is a sight to behold. It's not an OTK. Functions a lot like Cloud Prince in Turtle Mage, where there is just a sense of inevitability. Of course, it's not quite so staggering in the way that they lock out all of your other options compared to the old Turtle Mage, but in this situation, Possessi just knows blitzchung can't get back on board. He's top decking.
He is, and it's the Plague of Death just to survive there. It does delete both of the Librims in hand, but quite clearly we can see Possessi has Lady Liadrin to get them all back. It's really not the end of the road at all.
And then Penflinger, Librim of Hope.
You go
That's
Lady,
by
right?
1,000 pens.
Yeah, exactly. You can go about it any way you like here. I think it all just gets there. Uh-huh.
And he can just stop.
Yep. I mean, or keep going. I don't think it really matters, to be honest. I think as long as you're not overdrawing, it's fine. You just play 1 to get the card from your deck. Yeah.
You have best.
GG.
Wow, a clinic put on by Possessi at the end there. There were a lot of micro decisions, to be honest, and tough to spot the optimal lines with Penflinger, but even though there was that one turn where it felt like he didn't get to do everything he set out to do, the macro game plan stayed fully intact, and the Penflinger ended up in hand. He made sure that the Librims were immediately regenerated into the hand the turn that he plays them to make sure that there's no window for blitzchung to silence, and that means that the Lady Liadrin will always get some value later on.
Yeah, I'm really not going to rag on Possessi too much for that floating of the mana there, because directly after that, when he got into the flow of things, he was playing incredibly quickly, making many, many plays every single turn. Like, you need a fair bit of APM just to get through all those pen flinger activations when you factor in the animation length as well. And like you said, he knew exactly what the game plan was right from the get-go. Blitzchung had the one chance that he took with Mind Render Alusha to try and pull the pen flinger out and potentially get him into a situation where he could outvalue or maybe out-tempo the Paladin, but it wasn't the case, and he ended up losing because of it. 2-1 for Possessi, a single win away from knocking Blitzchung out of any contention to playoffs. And it's just got to be with the Mage now, up against the Highlander Priest and the Warrior. I've got to say now, the Highlander Priest for Blitzchung has just been looking remarkably weak so far.
I don't think it's won a single game on stream today, and it's kind of a shocker to me that it has also taken a loss against Paladin, because I thought that would be quite a good matchup for the Priest, which has curve potential and also potential to mess with their combos. But to be fair to Blitzchung, he did not hit his power cards like Zephyrus. To be fair, though, we can go back and look at the Sethic, whether it was really worth it to give it up, because Priest does rely on having those types of value generators to make sure they have stuff to do in the mid game. When all said and done, though, Possessi, with just the Mage left, has, I would say, a good matchup versus the Priest and a tougher one against the Bomb Warrior.
Agreed. I would think that the Bomb Warrior for Blitzchung is fairly well positioned to take down the Mage. The Pirate package versus non-Pirate package, I think, is not of the biggest consequence up against the Mage specifically, because generally they should still have enough ways to clear off the early boards from Possessi. As Possessi throws down the Apprentice. Clearly, again, one of the players who ascribes to the idea that you want to get the card draw rolling in the early game with the likes of, well, exactly this. Lab partner into Cram Session is, I think, one of the main things he was looking for.
Okay, Possessi makes it look like you really are supposed to toss Apprentice. And to be fair, I think we've already developed two schools of thought. It's not just Alan who does this. There's a fair few players in APAC, at the very least, who have been tossing Apprentice. Against Warrior, you can make the argument that your big pop-off turn doesn't necessarily even pay off unless you have Shanvala to go along with it, or just ways to get on board.
I think in this particular instance, against Bomb Warrior, with no cards that synergize with Apprentice on the play, I can get down with it. Like, there are situations where I can agree you're supposed to get rid of it. It's not often, but this feels like potentially one of them where you'd rather find some alternate routes instead to get the victory.
But this turn for Possessi seems pretty straightforward.
Oh, yes.
Take the Solarian, play down the free lab partner, draw tons of cards.
I agree.
I will crush
Oh.
your delusions of
Okay.
grandeur.
Wow, going really greedy on the draw.
So, no matter which of the remaining 1-drops he would play there, to be fair, it's resistant to Bladestorm. They have different health totals. Evocation.
Yeah, Potion is a bait, Possessi. Potion is just a bait here. Take the Evocation.
So, while this does look greedy, sometimes Possessi gets even more card draw.
Mm-hmm.
And the pressure is not to be ignored. Solarian is a great way to get in chip damage in the early game, and when I play Mage in this matchup, it's not by trying to outlast the bombs, it's trying to race down the Bomb Warrior and kill them before they get too many swings of the Wrench Caliber in.
Oi, 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 as Possessi, this could not have gone any better for him. He throws away the Apprentice and ends up drawing 6 cards with Cram Sessions in the early game. Value is the one thing he's not going to need any of over the course of this game. He just needs to not die to this Wrench Caliber into Blastmaster Boom, and I think he's in a great spot.
And I don't even know if Blitzchung is supposed to go for Wrench Caliber here. It ends up being correct because this damage on board for Possessi is not enough to warrant a brawl at the moment, but it gets super scary.
So quite clearly, with an equip and a pass, Brawl is at the top of your mind. You need to be afraid of them having a big clear here. So does that ever push you off of the power play of Jandis?
I think so. You want the Jandice as the follow-up, but problem is there's not that much else to do other than Jandice. I don't mind like Ray of Frost again in the 2-3.
That's fair. Clears some space from hand for evocation. Like, he's just getting rid of cards whilst developing stuff on board. I think, given how much Possessi is drawn, he can afford to be a little bit liberal here, which is what he's going for.
I like the little bump as well with one lab partner to make Bladestorm ever so slight, even more awkward to maneuver.
That's clever. That's very clever.
Great outcome for blitzchung. I would like to see a swing face now, because he can swing again next turn and just coin out the boom.
Is it? I like the idea of a swing, but wow, he doesn't go for it at all. I was wondering if you swing into the minion just to keep everything clear 100%, but holding back completely, my goodness.
Yeah, I guess the minion swing makes sense if you are just going to curve into boom, because you don't want things that can easily trade into your boom bots and soak up damage. Wow, massive minions off of this Jandice.
That is huge. Just seen the brawl. Perfect development from Possessi. I love the pick of June Sculptor as well. I think that could be absolutely incredible.
It's just the next board, right? Possessi has chain threats. He's playing Jandice now, and even if there is a clear on this, which is pretty difficult to put together for blitzchung having used a brawl, then he has Dune Sculptor to follow up.
And while it would have been cool to see it on that turn, I've gotten used to seeing June delayed already this year, so I'll learn to live again.
Oh, which one?
Makes the right call. Not playing any mind games here.
And he coerces the 5-6, I would imagine.
Shield Slam... Like, Shield Block Coin Shield Slam is a thing, but I don't see what that really accomplishes over just taking the coerce.
I think blitzchung setting up for a coin Deathwing. It is finally the chance for him to score. This entire time he has been playing defense, which Possessi, no matter what deck he's playing, even if it's Priest, has managed to put blitzchung's warrior in this awkward position. Going into Jandice.
I don't want to do that. I don't want to do any of this. Like, I guess you kind of have to,
I just want the Deathwing to be as healthy as possible when it comes down next turn. It seems like he's committed to not swinging face. I just don't know where the Wrench Caliber is meant to go. Very possibly he's just saving it because he hasn't seen upgrades or Krastenov yet, and he doesn't have the second Wrench or Corsair Cash in hand.
So weirdly enough here, I think Possessi can have a read on no boom right now in hand, because otherwise you would have been seeing the weapon swings come face, is the read I think you would make. In which case, the thing you're most afraid of is coin Deathwing, in which case developing Mana Giant is kind of good, kind of bad.
I would say it's kind of bad. Just
okay, fair. Yeah, it does more damage, but you have the way to answer to a Deathwing, so it's fine to hold back.
I mean, against Deathwing, to be fair, the Dune Sculptor is also kind of bad. They all get cleared up, but at least by this point, the Mana Giant is much cheaper to play the next turn.
And the Raz is good. I like the Raz, but I love the Mozaki here. That looks really tempting for later on in the game. Like jokes aside, that could just be a win con if you don't have enough damage on board to get there.
No, for real. I mean, Mage, even against Warrior, which gains armor, can very easily exhaust their resources when they've had this blistering fast of a start, and then you would need some burst to get over the top after the Warrior has cleared your next board with the Brawl, etc. But blitzchung sees this as the window to go in. He saved up for this Deathwing, finally swinging with the Wrench Caliber because he wants to follow up with the Boom.
Oh my goodness, the value for Possessi is absolutely overwhelming.
It is. These minions are kind of mucking up the hand, though. I feel like he wants space for evocation.
Right.
What to do?
But it's fine. Mozaki, Freeze, Giant. Seems strong. Frostbolt!
Frostbolt is very juicy. I mean, if this Mozaki can't be cleared off, that could be the finisher at the end of the massive evocation play a bunch of spells turn.
So big. This development from Possessi shuts off an easy boom play from blitzchung. And as it stands, it doesn't have a clean way of getting rid of both of these. It involves swinging. I guess you can take 3. Just shield block, coerce the giant, and then shield slam swing the Mazaki, and you can evolve Deathwing.
Yeah, like you could go for athletic studies and try and find a cheap minion slash broom. Could be very powerful after you go for the witchy here.
Take
But
the
yeah,
guaranteed.
Sure, I'll go with this.
Athravar's not a great outcome though.
Honestly, forgot that was even a card in Standard, to be perfectly honest. I haven't seen it for so long.
I miss Holy Wrath Paladin.
Ah, the good old days.
Yeah, one apprentice away from truly sealing the game.
Yeah, what do you even do here? Like, I guess you
I think
take a
it's fine to
Shinvala
throw an
activation?
evocation. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you just will not have space to play both of them for big value in the near future.
Right.
So, quite smart. Learn. Conic. Counterspell?
Yeah, it's counterspell like Explosion Frostbolt, which can be used to freeze the 5/5 for a turn, right?
True.
Yeah, I like it.
Gives your Shanvala the best chance of surviving. This was the same shape of board that Possessi left last turn, which is 2 big minions on his side, which they have the same health, but he's leaving blitzchung with a minion that he can't trade off to, so it's still difficult to pull off a Blade Storm.
These
Now I like
weapons are
starting with
starting.
studies.
Yeah, you can start with studies, try and find the answer. Like, Brawl is possible if you need to, but... Ooh. Batter head is not quite there, yeah. Gotta be the Kargath.
No Shanvala. Blitzchung's pulling back. But with 1 spell damage minion, Possessi's Raz is looking very spicy too. Not
Yeah,
there,
it's
though.
not going to take much. Like, this could just be another evocation turn. You could start with the magic trick, of course. You might hit Arcane Explosion, Primordial Studies, Missiles, Devolving Missiles. There's a lot of good cards here.
True.
AI honestly might be the best to try and find Apprentice or Giant.
Is it just the cheapest one? So you can play Cyclone? I don't know, I'm still somewhat interested in a Raz this turn. Would it be ludicrous to like Raz ping Cyclone? Take a small Cyclone?
That's not absurd. You have the evocation, right? So generating spells with
Right.
Cyclone isn't necessarily of the utmost importance.
I'm just trying to optimize the resources that Possessi has right now, as opposed to trying to cycle through and maybe you hit something good, but if you don't, then it's tougher to use the evocation.
Oh, he's gonna have to go quick if he's playing Evo. He's gonna have to go quick no matter what he does here because time is running out.
True mastery takes dedication.
So just a ping here. I think you're fine to leave up the Kargath as a 4-1.
Yeah, this is the correct thing because you want to give them less chance of finding the Kargath Prime for as long as possible.
He holds on to the Cyclone, which is also understandable. But
And
I don't
now
know.
it's
I
boom time,
feel
right?
like he has no shortage of resources between the Cobalt, the Arcane Intellect, and the Evocation.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think if he'd had the time, the play of going for either Evocation or Arcane Intellect was stronger, in my opinion, because he gets the 6/6 immediately off the side quest. He has a pretty decent chance of finding some kind of an answer to the board off of the Evo plus the Cyclone at the end. And Raz can be saved for something a little bit more impactful later on.
But here is the big turn from Blitzchung. Boom, coming down, fully charged, 4 bombs in the deck, Possessi only with a 5/5. Try and respond. It is extremely scary now.
This is what he's been
Forgot
setting up
about
for.
the side quest, to be honest, but now that you bring it up, if he had left it on board, then Possessi might have forced Blitzchung off of a boom game. There's
Right.
just too much damage starting the other way.
Okay, we're looking for Apprentice. We might also be looking for
Prime!
Solarian Prime. Oh my god, that's scary.
You want Frost Nova, and just Frost Nova.
Right. Frost Nova good, Blizzard scary.
Yep.
Oh!
Oh! Ah! So scary, so scary, so scary. The boom is alive though. Possessi is in big trouble. Oh, Vaporize is the last one!
Oh.
What the heck? That is so clutch.
That is so clutch.
Ay. Blitzchung can't test for it.
Yeah, you always just go face here, 100%.
Anyway, he has a pretty good Bladestorm. Gonna test for counterspell first with the upgrade.
Do you see what must be done?
Hello?
Oh, that's
Wait.
insane!
That's kind of scary.
He has to kill that now, right?
That's
Surely! Surely you have to kill that.
I don't know. Because if he
Oh.
doesn't swing face, he misses a bomb break point as
Right.
well. Oh,
There's not that many. There's not that many in the deck though. At this point, right? 2 were just drawn. 2 in a row seems unlikely.
yeah. But it's also kind of unlikely that the Altruist does that much damage, right? They need to have everything on the outcast spots, and they probably need to have Apprentice. I don't know.
I mean, it just does 4. Like, it's just a 4 attack guy. Even if it doesn't do anything else, that's a lot.
Right, but I mean, you would take the damage anyway. No face, so it's like, because I
Yeah.
predict the game is gonna end in 2 turns or less. So it just depends on how long Blitzchung thinks it's gonna go. Because obviously, leaving up Raz for more than 1 turn is a disaster. Gosh,
Do the
that's scary
thing.
if it draws Possessi cards too. There's 2 bombs in the deck right now.
I have become
Hallow's End! Happy Hallow's End!
Oh, both players just praying that it does the good thing for them. Nothing yet. No Pyroblast.
Cards drawn!
Drawing cards!
Bombs!
Stop!
Wait. Frostbolt is huge, and he's up to 10 cards! So he can overdraw bombs now.
You're right.
You just
You're
don't
right.
play anything here as Possessi, right? You just ping face. You can play the Wand Maker.
Really pass on Giant? I guess maybe you do, right?
time runs out on me.
Like, is there any way you can get an Apprentice Evo Cyclone way to fill up your hand?
No, that would... No, it would regenerate only 1 spell at the end of it.
Okay.
Wand Maker ping?
Yeah, 1 make a ping pass.
Yeah,
Agreed.
let's do it, Possessi.
Good spot from Possessi. Very good.
That was a very scary prime.
Oh!
Saving the
Galakrond,
Frostbolt for last.
That unfreezes your hero, right? When you change heroes?
I remember that being a thing from before. I don't know if there's some patch note that changed it because it's been a long time since I've seen this interaction, but absolutely play that.
I'm like pretty sure that it does unfreeze your hero at this point. And then you have the 1 bomb outer on the other side. Oh no, wait, but it's 10 cards. It doesn't even. Oh, of course.
Yeah. Oh, so he has to like Quartermaster Brawl? Because they're just. Yeah, he has to win the Brawl. I mean, he can play the Lackey
Yeah.
and just pray this isn't counterspell.
Yeah, the Galakrond just isn't even good enough. Oh my god.
Evolve Guy, play the Brawl. Oh,
Really? All right, he's getting the swing in. Just trying to finish it off next turn.
okay.
It's fair enough. It sets up the 2-turn lethal.
Possessi almost certainly should find a way to deal lethal this turn. There's not that much space for
Surely.
evocation, but surely, right? Apprentice, let's go.
We'll have to see. Apprentice, Giant, play the Primordial Studies, I guess, as well.
Try to get lab partner, play that down, make space. Yeah, so expensive. Now you just evo, I guess.
I guess so.
Do trick? Magic trick?
Missiles! That has to be it. That has to be it.
Yeah,
now.
it is 100% it.
Oh. 9 damage to face. Spell damage is enough to close things out. Possessi in a nail-biter of a Mage vs Rogue game. Gets the lethal at the final hurdle. He is going on to the decider match. And heartbreakingly here, it was not a good day for Blitzchung. He loses both of his series, and he is at the end of the road for him for this season. Still can come back next time in the next season of Grandmasters to try and get through to the World Championships. But the dream for Possessi, Gia, against all the odds, is still alive.
I would say it was a very good season for blitzchung all along, even though there was some blips in today's play style, I would say. For Possessi, though, absolutely deserves all the praise. I think the Paladin play was brilliant. I just didn't really know how he could get a win with this deck other than the Warrior matchup, but in the end, he took it against blitzchung's Priest, and he's gonna have to queue it up once again later today as he faces Tom 60229. Just so much interesting Hearthstone today.
Yeah, it's going to be a really good one. I cannot wait for Tom up against Possessi. That's going to be a different one entirely because it's going to be a different set of decks that the Paladin has to try and get a win against. It's got the Demon Hunter, which is good, the Warrior, which is good, but Mage and Rogue could get a little bit tricky. But I think from what we've seen from Possessi already today, if anyone can get the win, it is going to be him. Some very, very strong play altogether. Commiserations to blitzchung, but like I said, he can have another shot next season at going through to the World Championships. We are going to go to a slightly longer break now, give Possessi a chance to prepare himself, settle his